Crafty friends, it's Sheree at Turquoise Dreaming. How you doing today? Welcome to my channel. I'm here today to work on a Scrappy journal closure tie. So yeah, these are pretty basic, and when I went to Florida I took some fabric with me that I had already gotten out, and I intended on cutting it up, and well, I just threw it all in my bag with a pair of pinking shears, and sure enough, one night I was sitting around trying to keep myself awake, and while we were watching TV, and I thought, if you have trouble staying awake while watching TV, little crafting is a good thing to do because it kind of keeps you, I don't know, it keeps you awake. It keeps me awake. Anyway, I was really struggling one night when we were watching TV, and I was like, let me grab my stuff because I guess I'm tired. Anyway, so yeah, I cut these are strips. I cut some strips. This is eyelet. This is from this fabric right here. It is muslin. It's from a handbag though, a handbag. So the handbag was mostly muslin. I got it at a thrift store. Didn't get it from my own hand that I bought. I got it from a thrift store. And it had printing on the front. So the printed part is cut up into little rectangles, and the part that was just plain I cut up into strips, and I just sewed two together. Now I just measured one strip that I made into a scrappy tie closure on a journal I just finished, and it was a little bit shorter than this one. This one I sewed two of these strips together. I didn't want to really cut any off of it, so I'm just going to go with it. But this one is 4 feet, about 4 feet. I think it was 5 inches long, 4 feet 5 inches. So we're just going to go with it, and so I don't have to cut another scrap off of here. But I've been kind of just taking these to my sewing machine. The last few I did, and putting a piece of fabric on there, sewing it on, sewing around it, sewing up and down, all that. But before, a long time ago, I made some of these, and this is what I did. And after doing the ones I did, the last few, they seemed to take forever. So I thought, I need to go back to the old way that I was doing these. And so I got my glue stick out. I got my little, this is way more than I need to make one. I don't know how many I'll get in here, out of here, but it's way more than I need. But anyway, this is the fabric I had gotten out to kind of use up. And I'm trying not to let this fall off the table here. It's kind of like, because it is kind of 4 feet, it's pretty long, wider than my table that I have here. I have a little square, about a 3 foot square here. So I'm going to go like this. Okay. So you can see the last couple I made, I discovered, because I think the first ones that I ever made, I put the fabric from that I was putting on top of my base strip, like right up to the edges. And the last couple I made, I noticed how kind of really pretty they were if I put it like this piece of fabric in the middle, and see how the muslin frames that. And I thought that was so pretty on the other one, so I'm going to just go with it. Whatever it covers, and unless it's a little strip or something. I do have a couple of little strips in there. But what I'm going to do to make it easier and faster, I think this will be easier and faster. So I'm just going to put, I guess I'll just put it on the fabric. I can decide which. This is kind of pretty much the same on the front and back. And I'm just going to put, this is just, washable glue stick, so it's not permanent because I'm going to be sewing on top of these. But I want to, like I said, try to make it easier and faster to get these done, because I do want to make some more of these, and I have a lot of fabric that I've, of course, picked up at thrift stores, and I have a bunch that was sent to me in Happy Mail one time. So I would like to use some of that. So I'm going to put a different piece, over each as I go along. It'll be a different piece. So I used that one. The next one I have here is this one. I'm not going to be picky. I'm just going to, I think if you don't get in your head and just go with it like I'm doing here, I randomly cut these up and put them together, except I did pick them all out of kind of you see how it doesn't have it's not completely colored, it's just a random piece of fabric. In fact, this side I see I didn't even do my pinking shears, but I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to put it right next to the other piece there. So it's a white piece of fabric with just a couple little colored stripes on it there, squiggly stripes. But I'm just going to go with it. This is just fabric I had in my drawer of fabrics. Now, see, this one's a little thin, so I'm going to save that for when I get. I need to pair it with something because it's too thin. I don't want to put it like that. I would rather have it here and something else here, which I know I have a little strip in there, so maybe when I get to that, I'll put this beside it. But this is another piece that I cut up. Had some fruit on it, it looks like. You can put your glue either or here or on, it doesn't need to be a lot. I'm just putting enough on there to hold it on till I get to my sewing machine to sew through it. And by the time I get to my sewing machine, this will be, this glue will be dry, so I can, not worry about sewing through it. Next section is some of the printing from the handbag. Let's get a real printed piece here. And by that I mean a piece with a lot of printing on it. See, there you go. Loosened ham. Something about putting it in a pan. Yeah, I got that at the thrift store. And I just have had it for so long in my, I thought it was, and I still think it was really cool. I just never did anything with it. And I was like, I don't know. I kind of wanted to make a journal cover out of it. But I guess I kind of didn't. So here I am. I've cut it up now and I'm going to be using it in pieces. So I think this will be easier. Okay, we did the handbag. Let's see what's next. Oh, here's another piece of the handbag where I had some colorful writing on it. Let's put one of those next. I want to get this so this doesn't, the edge here, and then a couple strips, and then the edge over here, so it just really stays down. I'm trying to, kind of zip through the sewing of this. I don't want it to be coming loose or anything, so that's kind of why I'm putting the amount on here that I am of glue, Okay, we did 2 pieces of the handbag, the colorful writing, the plain, oh, look at this. This is kind of cool. I don't know if I want to put another handbag piece on here. I think I do. Maybe later. This is the ingredients list. Daily fiber, carbohydrates, all that kind of thing. So we'll do that in a minute because I already did a printed piece there, so I don't want to put another printed piece. Here's another fruit one. I already put a fruit. Here is a leaf. This is a silky kind of piece with an embroidered piece on it. I need another piece to go with that too, as far as a thinner piece. Let's see how big it is. Yeah, I need. I might actually have to get my scissors out here. Oh, here's a bigger piece. Here's a leaf. I'll use those when I'm doing this off video. I just wanted to do one on video for you, just so you can see how I'm doing this. And this is not any kind of like sewing masterpiece or anything. It's just a scrappy, it's not meant to be perfect or anything. A scrappy journal closure, whichever. I will finish this and then I will have it in my closet. I have a shelf. Actually, the shelf, the closet I'm using right now, and here in my craft room. I say right now because my craft room may be moving into another part of our house. But, oh, that's the fruit. But, yeah, it has a shelf in it that I hang these on. That is, like one of those wire shelves. So the part where you hang your hangers, there's a pole there. A wire, those plastic covered wired shelves. And anyway, there's a space where I don't have anything on that bar, and I just hang these over the bar. And I've made what I made 3 recently, and I already used 2 of them, so it's not like it's crowded or anything on that pole. Okay, here's something from an apron that I had, a bird, a vintage apron. Let's put the bird next. something different. And then when I get through all the fabrics that I have cut up, then I start over. So, and you can do smaller pieces. This is just, I just cut this into, for this very purpose, I cut it into these bigger rectangles. I think that looks nice, but I also have done some with smaller pieces, like little squares, you know, little kind of 1.5 inch, 2 inch squares type of thing. So let's see, that's the handbag. Let's see. Okay, I think I've used a little bit of everything. Okay, here's a couple of the strips. So here's a strip here. Let's put a strip next, just to use up a couple of smaller, like, you know, not as wide pieces. So this is going to go here, and then I'll get a couple of those pieces that weren't as wide. I thought I didn't know where this was, but I just ran into it. This is from the apron too, this fabric you see right here. I think that was from my apron that I cut up. So here's a thinner piece. So now I can put this here. Right next to that. So you can piece it together like this too. And here's another piece with a little piece of embroidery on it. So all of these fabrics, they're not too thick or anything. They're not like, there's no upholstery type fabric in here. That would be too thick in the long run, possibly once you get 2 layers together to tie, you know, and be flexible to tie into, you know, around a journal and then tie a bow. So that's something to think about, the type of fabric you're using. So we used that, and that's what we we started with this I'm going to call it, well, I guess it's taupe. I was going to say purple. I think it's got some purple in there, but it's definitely not purple. Okay, so now I'm going to start over with this one. And we started with a bump there. And yeah, I'm going to start over. And I'm just going to overlap this a little bit right here. Let me put some glue on there. Overlap that a little bit. And I'll tell you how I'm going to sew this in just a second when we get to the end. So I started over with my starting fabric, so I'll just go through here again and, you know, keep the same. You don't have to keep the same pattern, but I'm going to probably keep the same pattern. And I was going to change out my natural thing is for me to try to match this with a thread. I was going to change my thread out when I went and sewed. I sewed these 2 pieces of muslin together for the base. I was getting ready to put some neutral thread in there, like some white or off-white or whatever. And I'm like, you know, that's just me, you know, kind of like going for perfection. And I'm like, well, why am I doing that? I don't have to make it match. So I'm going against my natural perfectionistic. That's why I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I'm going against my natural urge to make it perfect and not put matching thread in my sewing machine. So I just left what was in there. I was like, you know, why am I changing it? Why does it have to match? Why does it have to be the same color? Why does it have to blend in? It doesn't. So I just left my thread in there. I'm leaving my thread in there that I already had in there, and I'm going to use that. Alright, I had to take a little pause there. See, I'm on fruit. But yeah, I got a little chicken story for you. My son just came in, and like I mentioned, they're moving out, and but he has his chickens here still, but he's taken his dogs and his cats with him. And the dogs are kind of like, you know, with a chicken, one of the cats goes outside, and the dogs, you know, stay outside during the day a lot, and so they're kind of like, I'm just grabbing another glue stick. They're kind of like guards for the chicken, you know, chickens. If anything were to come in, if you hear anything on the ceiling, I hear a little something right now. He could be rolling things around up there. Hear that? And so I'm sorry about any noise, but that's him moving things around. But anyway, he just came in and he's like, "Have you been outside?" I'm like, "Yeah. I went out earlier, like an hour or so ago, to kill some weeds." So he's like, "Did you look at the chickens?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I went over there and I actually gave him some peaches." I gave him 2 peaches from our peach tree that didn't look so good, but they're, you know, good for the chickens. And I said, "Well, I saw 3 of them, but I really didn't see the 4th one, but, you know, I figured it was inside the coop or something." Okay, fruit, and now ham. Okay, where's that ingredient one? Oh, I put it back in here. What did I do with that? Here it is. Here's one. We're going to use the ingredients from the ham. Yeah, this is the same piece I had before. So I'm like, "No, I didn't really see the 4th one, but I figured it was in the coop." He's like, "Well, there's one missing." I'm like, "Oh no." So I ran out. We looked all around. We couldn't find it. I'm like, "Oh man, you know, something got it." And I know from experience, because we had chickens for quite a while, and once something discovers that you have chickens, like what our experience was, they would come back every day and try to get one. And they would get one. That's why we don't have chickens anymore ourselves. And we warned our son about, you know, our experience, of course. So, let's see. Now this needs an extra piece. This is kind of thin too. Let me look for another leaf piece here. But yeah, so we looked all around. We couldn't find it. We thought, we looked all around the house and just everywhere. And we couldn't find it. So we thought, oh, something got it. And then I was in the backyard getting ready to come in the back door, and I hear bonk bonk. No, not that quick. I heard bonk, you know, from a chicken, a random chicken that was close by. I'm like, what? What was that? That was a chicken. Because there's chickens now. There are chickens that live in the neighborhood, but they're down the street, and I can hear, you know, that they're far away. This was close. It's like, what? That was a chicken, and I heard it a second time. So I'm like, take off running for the front yard because I could hear it was around the front yard. And okay, apron. Let's see. Oh, I didn't get any. Oh yeah, I did a little piece. Okay, so let me get a piece of this apron. Yeah, so I take off running for the front yard, and my son had gone to get their dog, one of their dogs, the little one that likes to bark a little bit. I think if something comes around, it'll bark at it and chase it away. She would be the one that would be more likely to chase away any kind of chicken predator. So he went to get her to be a chicken guard today. And he's approaching the front yard with the dog at the same time I'm running around the house trying to locate this random chicken, and I hear, you know, what do you call a chicken noise? Barking. So, and there she was standing in the front yard. We're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing out here? Like she was out. They never fly out really. If they I think 1 or 2 accidentally flew out once or flew out and they're like wanted to get right back into their area. They didn't want to be out wandering around by themselves. So I'm sure she was trying to figure out how to get back in. But let's see what do I want here next. Okay, I think I've done them all again. So I've got just a little bit more here. So I got to her first, and I was able to kind of chase her a little bit, about maybe 5 or 6 feet, and I caught up to her and got her. Because chickens will just kind of, I've seen my chickens do this, and his chicken did the same thing my chickens used to do, is they kind of just squat and kind of make themselves flat to the ground, I think trying not to be seen or something. I guess that's her defense mechanism. But that's what she did. She did it, and then she tried to run again. So she kind of slowed herself down, and I was able to catch up with her and grab her. So I grabbed her and carried her. Me and my son walked together. He had his dog, and I had the chicken, and we walked together back to the chicken area and got them all kind of secured back into, he had let them out into the bigger part of the yard that he was occupying since his dogs weren't there, but he closed them back up into the smaller chicken area that he has just for the chickens. And so yeah, now they're in their smaller area again. So let's see, I'm looking for one of the stripes. Oh, here's another piece of, let me use another piece of this printed one from the ham, and then we'll use a stripe, and then it'll be done. But yeah, so we got them back in there in their small area, secured, but it was such a relief to find that crazy chicken. Oh my goodness. Phew, I felt so terrible. Like, you know, that something had got it. We were trying to figure out, like, what could have got it. Only thing we could figure out if something did get it was like an owl or a hawk flew over and just snatched it, because there was nothing, no evidence of something getting into the fenced in area. So anyway, nothing got it. It was there, waiting for us to find it in the front yard. We were both very relieved that he still has 4 chickens. And oh man, because it's been like, they got them as they weren't little baby chicks, but they were like about half grown, I guess, when he got them. So they weren't, you know, laying eggs yet. They had to grow up, and you know, it's about 8 months before they start laying eggs. So we've been through all of that, waiting for them to start laying eggs and all that, and they finally did. Now they lay 3 or 4 eggs every day, and he's got like tons of eggs, and you know, his 4 chickens, and they love their chickens. They all named them all, and their pets. But so that would have been terrible. So yeah, happy ending. The chicken is okay. Thank goodness. But that is why we do not have chickens anymore, because it's very hard. Our chickens were pets too, and it's very hard to lose one, you know? It really is. You think they're just a chicken, but you know, when you name them, it becomes hard to lose one. So even if you don't name them, we didn't name all ours, and it was still, because we had about a dozen or so. All right, I'm going to sew on this, and I want to show you the results when it's sewn on, so I'll be right back. Okay, my friends, this came out really cute. It's done, and oh, it was so much quicker than what I was doing the last few. I don't know why I did it like that. I mean, it came out nice, of course, but it's not, this was so much faster. So I was able to, the only slowdown I had was on the outer edges, you know, like I was putting them on, and these are not all evenly on here. You know, some are a little bit less wide than the others, or some are wider than the others. So my stitching is accordingly, not straight, because I wanted to stay inside the whatever piece of fabric was there. So this is the fabric, or this is the thread I had in my sewing machine. My bobbin is blue color, and my top thread, or my thread, that's, you know, the thread part is gray, and that's just some threads. I'm trying to use some of my kind of neutralish threads instead of always using black and white or brown, because I have a lot of thread that I've picked up at thrift stores. So anyway, I just left what I had in there, went with it, and let me just show you from the beginning to end. I don't know if I can, if you really get the whole picture, but I was calling it neutral, and well, you know, I could call it neutral, I guess. It does have a lot of color in here at the same time. As far as, you know, I could use it on a pastel journal, or really any journal that I think this would go with, because there's a lot of different colors that ended up in here. Let me show you. What it would look like tied around a journal. So this is not a journal, this is a book I brought home recently. But this is a Richard Scarry Best Story Ever book that will be a journal one day. But let's just see how this looks tied around. So there's the neutral back base, and I put that on the bottom. Get my ends even, and this is a nice long one. Like I said, 4 feet, about 4 feet 5 inches long, so pretty long. Then it doesn't have to be this long, and you can just do your own variation of this, but nice, strong. No upholstery fabric, like I said. It's all cotton type fabric. I think there's one silky one, the one with the embroidery on it that I mentioned. I put a couple pieces of that on there, but the all, no really thick fabric, so it's easy to wrap around and tie with, fabric like that. Once you get 2 layers on here, it's very sturdy and thick feel. It's not overly thick feeling, but it does feel quite sturdy and thick. So then I just tie. You can just tie a little. Let's see. Since this does have a front and back, the other ones when I have the colored back, I just go with it, because it all looks. You have the color on both sides, but this one I'll turn around so that the color more, the top is on the top here. And then you've got your bow, your nice, well, these ended up upside down. I have to mess with this a little bit since it has a top and a bottom, but anyway, you can see, even though I'm calling this neutral, it still has a lot of color. So there you go. And it was real quick, like when I was doing the edges, what I was going to say is I kind of did have to stop a little once in a while and make sure my fabric was laying down and not bunching up, and not that much, but once in a while. And then once I got to the center threads, I was able to just kind of zip right down the 2 center. So I made, isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? I love it. So, yeah, they always just turn out so fun. But, yeah, I kind of started out by sewing across the bottom, and then I went up one side, one side, went all the way down, just so you know my sewing pattern. You never really have to take it off unless you run out of a bobbin or something, or a thread, but down one side, and then I went up all the way up to the other side, and then went all the way down the other side, all the way, and then went over, so you never picking up my needle, and then going down the middle. I divided and eyeball it into 4 sections, so I went over about, like that. Right there's my next line. Went all the way down, all the way, zip, 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 because now the edges are down, so I can really zip down the middle parts, and then again over a little bit, never taking my needle out, just turning and going down the next line. So that's actually my 4th time, the 4th line down. And you don't have to do 4 lines, you could do 3, you could do 2, you would do whatever you want. You could do back and forth, whatever, all over. This is what I did. I'm just showing you what I did. So then I went all the way down, and I was done. So yeah, that's my sewing pattern. As far as how I did my stitching, it's just a straight stitch. You could do zigzag, whatever you want, but this is a lot. I mean, if you sew a lot of things like this on your paper and your journals and things like this, it's actually kind of surprising about how much thread you use. And I go through a lot of thread, so that's why I'm really thankful that I've found some at thrift stores. But yeah, so and I like the straight stitches on here, but when you do zigzag, it takes up more thread too, because I thought about, you could do zigzags on the outside and do straight on the end. That would be pretty. I don't think I've ever done a zigzag on these, though. I just always use straight stitch because it's already a lot of thread just doing the straight stitches, let alone trying to do zigzags all up and down this very long thing. So anyway, that was fun for me. I hope you enjoyed seeing my little technique there, imperfect as it is, but charmingly imperfect, I think. So I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Have a great day.